like the concept of drinkable yogurt.
Huh.
Yogurt is for eating, preferably with food. I do. I have tried it. I have tried drinkable yogurt, and I'm against the concept. I'm against it. All its forms. I like thick Greek yogurt as well, and you can't drink that. I mean, you
All
probably
right.
could,
All right. How about we start? I think we're good to go. So welcome, guys, to week 10 of our book club. We read.
What?
Yeah.
Time flies.
So we need fireworks, and thank you for Dean for recommending the book Tony and the Beatles by our good friend Philip K. Dick. And man, let's get into it. This book is about um
Beetles.
colonization and beetles. The humans colonizing beetles, basically. That's the story in a nutshell, or a beetle shell. And yeah, who wants to? I want to go first this time. I really like this story. For me, it hit all the notes, and I think there was a lot at stake, and I really enjoyed the questions, and so, and I like that I wasn't immediately like thinking that the humans were the good guys. I like the sort of challenging, um, which side I'm on, because you wouldn't think, oh, I'm on the Beatles side, right? Like I should be helping my fellow man, but at the same time, you're thinking about the abstract problem rather than whose side you're on, and so I found this story thoroughly enjoyable. Who's next? It's me. I loved it. It was a great story.
Go for
Well,
it,
yeah,
Tim.
I'll go. I liked it. Yeah, I liked the fact that you kind of don't necessarily have distinct loyalties. I like how they kind of positioned Tony as 10 years old, so he's caught in the middle of it, and that blurring over time of who's right, who's wrong, because they said it's been a century or something. And like this has been a long drawn out colonization.
Mm.
But yeah, I think it was too short. Like I would have liked it to go on a bit longer, to go in a little bit deeper, I guess, a little bit
Mm.
more detail. Because yeah, I found it interesting. Um, and like, yeah, it was intriguing. I liked the setup, and I liked the characters, and even like I think he captured the childlike innocence even on the other side with, I don't know how you'd say that name, the beetle child.
Beprith. I don't know.
Yeah. Kind of like, oh, my mom said, or my dad said, I can't play with you anymore.
Yeah.
Like that, like it's not me. My mom says so. It's kind of very childlike and innocent, and yet they're carrying all their parents' hate and anger.
Mm.
Yeah, I liked it. Dane, what do you think?
Yeah, it was, as far as the story goes, it was pretty good. Um, I liked the fact that they used children to kind of show that next multi-generational facet of either being, colonizing or, yeah, displacing another group.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I think it's much better than if it was just people coming in and just doing the occupation. I think I enjoyed the fact that they used that they showed it through the next generation. But yeah, it was, again. I also think it was just too short.
Right. See, I really like the dad, the character of the dad, because at the beginning of I mean, he's just so unlikable, but I sort of like what the character shows us. And at first, you think it's the old insert some family member who's got some attitude that should have gone with the time, but that and I love the way how he's like, oh, if only I was 10 years younger, I would do something about it, and I love the way the author just rips into that character, that trope of, because just yeah, and it just makes you feel like, no, no, you need to be quiet now, or you need to not uh, talk about things that don't help, and not only that, kind of like how politicians will say how we should do things, but they don't really take part in the action or the consequences of it. And so, yeah, I thought it was quite a naked sort of reveal about that that type of trope of the backseat driver politician.
See, I liked all like the little subtle kind of hints he gave about the colonization,
Mm,
because like he says how they have to stop to give Terras a lift,
yeah.
because that's like the law. So you've got this um, obligatory respect that obviously isn't naturally there. It's had to be made into law.
Mm,
But also, he describes the city as already being quite advanced and quite developed. And I can't quite recall if that was like when they arrived, or like as it is now. But I just think if that's only 10 years, that means it must have been developed. It must have been quite an advanced um, planet or city or whatever.
yeah.
And then the terrorists came in and went, nope, it's mine. And
Mm,
so you can kind of read afterwards through those kind of little subtleties the frustration that they must feel at these people coming in and saying, no, this is all mine now. You've got to behave this way. Because they already had a civilization, they had their planet, and they're being imposed upon.
mm.
So I like those little subtleties.
Yeah, it's interesting. It talks about it had its own religion and its own, and it's described like even the sewer system was like it was good enough. Like it didn't. It's some in some areas it didn't say it was great. Like it wasn't like, oh, it was this marvelous civilization. It kind of goes like it talks about, it was adequate in this area. It didn't necessarily need like a
Yeah, but then
superior.
but then medicine was very far advanced. So like they had their strengths, just
Yeah.
like any community on
Mm.
Earth. Some are better at certain things than others. Yeah, very more like realistic, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, and it was weird how you could relate to it because on one hand, like the Beatles, you just think it's, well, I'm not going to relate to you as like you're almost like alien. Um, as far as from my perspective, I would feel obliged to help another human over a alien, in general. But yeah, the story does make you think a bit more about these perspectives and the legitimacy of those other perspectives. Um, yeah. All right. So, Dean, what did you find? Is that sound coming from you guys or?
It could be Monique shouting in the
Uh,
background. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I understand.
I like the two conversations that stood out for me were the conversation between the old truck driver
Mm,
and the lady
yes.
just before he got into the city. Those two conversations.
Mm,
Um, yeah, they really stood out to me because it's between an adult trying to explain something which was not which you wouldn't usually try and explain to a kid, especially a different kid.
yeah.
Um, and I liked the way they were trying to do it without taking out their anger on him.
Mm,
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
you kind of got the two different reactions because the bus driver was as angry but didn't want to kind of educate in a way. He was just, putting up with him because he has to. Whereas she was like more maternal and kind of like, look, I want you to understand so that you're safe.
yeah.
Because she said, like, you shouldn't. probably be here. You should go home. It's not a good idea. So you've got like the two different attitudes as well, the two different approaches to that kind of anger whilst knowing, yeah, it's a kid. He doesn't really understand.
Yeah, but I think it's. I mean, maybe you see it a lot more just with meeting people from different places. But that kind of like that first generation. So I mean, yes, he is a human boy, but he's never seen it. He doesn't know Earth. He doesn't.
Mm.
He's only known that place. So for him, it's. I mean, it's just as foreign a concept as you know a first generational immigrant might be.
Yeah, yeah, because like to him, it's home. Yeah, just as much as it is to all the others from Beetlejuice or however you say it. Um,
Like Portuguese, but Beetlegeese, maybe.
oh, I think it was Beetlejuice. That's where
Okay.
I was
Yeah,
going with.
that's all I hear
Uh,
is Beetlejuice.
Yeah,
oh.
I just put a G so it wasn't exactly like juice. But yeah, it's like, yeah, this is his home. He's as much of a local as, yeah, the others that are there. But of course, the physical barrier, the physical difference, which is something else like I can relate to, like growing up minority in Kenya. It's like, I felt like, yeah, that was my home. That's all I could remember. But
Mm.
I was very, very much reminded by the physicality of my difference that no, I actually come from somewhere else.
Yeah,
And that feeling of it being imposed upon you from the outside because you don't feel like you're any different because Kenya was all I knew growing up. Like, yeah, we went back and visited, but like we always returned to Kenya for most of the year, for the vast majority of the year. Um, so it's something I can relate to as well, kind of being told, no, you need to eventually go somewhere else. Like, you will leave. You will, because you don't belong. So you're never really fixed in any one place.
See, that's quite interesting because if you think like, say we go back to that time that you just described, and then you got, there was news on the media, there's been this, I don't know, this frozen chill over Canada, like it's uninhabitable, is you're not going back, and let's forget England for a second, but like, when your dad tells you like, hey guys, like we're staying here in Kenya, they would that takes it out of the equation because in the story, obviously, Earth has been ravaged by nuclear war, and there's only some small parts of the Earth where people live, and it's overpopulated, and so well, we hear from the dad. He's like, oh no, no, actually, Tony says it as well. He tells the other kids, he's like, I can't go back to Earth. I only know this place. So
Yeah,
it's
because the tapes he had to listen to at school.
mm, yeah, the edu tapes. Yeah, yeah, quite quite interesting.
What was your point though?
That as well as an
You said
experiment is it was an experiment for well, back to you is that imagine how you would feel because m- well, I guess we could all relate, but if your dad had told you that well you can't go back to Canada, um, so we're staying here in Kenya now. Is there's that would and then feeling like an outsider, but knowing that you have to stay there, that sort of um, burden that is just on you, even though you should feel just like everyone else, a human being, and
see, but that's the difference though. Like me, akin to the protagonist. Like
mm,
the difference is coming from the outside forced upon you. Like if I had stayed in Kenya, that would have just been my home. I probably would have learned Swahili and actually been able to speak it. Um, like it would have just been something I adapt to. But here in this, um, like he feels like a local, but
yeah,
there's so much anger then faced at him, and I think he's confused because that anger has always been there, but it's been hidden and covered until the tide is turning and suddenly it's all very active and voiced. Whereas like in Kenya, um, there was a lot of colonial hatred with the
Mm,
British colony, but it was so indoctrinated as well. And like, who knows? Maybe recently or after I left, it would have been more pronounced, more vocalized. But it was never when I was living there. So it wasn't really something I ever had to feel afraid of in that respect. Like it's a different sense of insecurity.
mm. And I was struck at the beginning when the boy, being innocent and all, he goes out and protects the Beatles when I think, yeah, the dad just he just says, "Oh, the Beatles," and he goes, "Oh, they're actually called the what are they called? The
Pat Uni or something?
yeah, the something uh oh dear,
Something.
I had it on my tongue before, but oh yeah, they've got a proper name for them, right? Yeah, something
Yeah, they're Pazudetti.
Pazzadetti. Yeah, so and then he says Pazzadetti, and then the dad goes, and I love this, and he goes, "Oh, what are you, a Beatle lover?" And I was thinking, "Oh, wow, that's you know, you sort of realize, okay, wait a minute, the dad and the son are not on the same page because the son he's scratching his head thinking like, well, that's not. He's got like a different moral understanding of you how to treat one another, uh, and there's a bit of innocence there, but so he doesn't just take his dad's word that they're bad because he's like, well, they're my friends, right? Like, man, that's messed up that you're calling them the bad word. They're called the Pazudedi, is that it?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it says here that Betelgeuse or whatever is an Arabian word invented by them. There's no Portuguese.
Sorry. Yeah. I mean, I can't even fish for any Arabic word, but yeah. Okay. Well, beetle is obviously an Arabic word, but well, according to the book, I'm just gonna trust it. But yeah, the fact that the son and the dad don't see eye to eye on it, I really like that because the
I
dad would,
think.
yeah.
Well, I'm just gonna say, I think that makes Tony's like disappointment and confusion even that much greater because to him, they're friends. He's got this
Mm,
connection, and it's genuine. Um, so much so that he's ready to like defend them and stick up for them when they're not there.
yep.
Whereas they turn on him immediately,
Mm,
and they're like, "Yeah, no, now we don't have to pretend anymore. We're not going to."
yeah, that really hits you when you read that. It's and yeah, enjoy is not the right word, but I really sort of felt um yeah, it was an important moment in the story that I.
And that's what I mean. Like, it's quite childlike in that you can see that the one friend probably does feel a bit bad, and he said, "Look, I wanted to tell you before,
Mm,
but we can't be friends anymore." And that kind
yeah.
of blunt childlike honesty. So even though it's this big complex world and these big issues, it's still very real.
Yeah, but it also simplifies it into a very basic term that, I mean, most people can understand the term of friendship. And when you tell a friend, like, sorry, but we can't be friends anymore, it's it takes that big complex thing and it brings it home to such
Mm,
a personal level
yeah.
that it's just unmistakable.
Have you guys read Metamorphosis by Kafka?
I think I did. Yeah.
The
Oh,
Yeah.
the boy in the story gets turned into a well, he's not that young, but he's the young man or young boy gets turns into a cockroach, and it's quite an obscure story, but the point of it is that it's this change, I guess, which is what metamorphosis means, and
Sounds like District 9.
yeah, well, it does, and this story actually does have a bit of District 9 uh, coming from it, or it might have inspired it. And but yeah, no, metamorphosis. It's that point of because in the beginning of that story, he wants to buy a car or this like convertible car, right? That's like, and then but then he wakes up and he's turning into this cockroach. So immediately his first thought is like, I'm not gonna get that. I can't drive a convertible car anymore, right? So it's just talking about that change in your life. And now that theme doesn't happen in the story, but the idea about change or just really understanding a different perspective, um, it reminded me of that, and so I like that when I read things. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, I like that the even at the end after they they have that altercation and there's the revolt and whatever.
Mm.
Even then, the boy's first instinct is not to hate. It's he just doesn't understand,
mm,
which I thought was quite nice.
yeah,
Yeah. Tony was the most innocent out of all. Well, then again, he's got his dad like probably saying all this, beetle that, and it's like
yeah.
it's conflicted with in him.
Probably just like the other kids with their parents going, "Oh, white grub this, white grub that."
Mm. And if we're obviously going to compare this with human civilization, it's a shame that this has just happened like time immemorial. We don't learn from it, and even today we still do like
Yes.
the
The
Still
the
same thing.
colonizing, still
yeah,
dominating.
the revolting, like when you read the story, like there's just things that are revolting, and it's wrong, but we see it still today, and it's really interesting that there's probably like a deeper levels of misunderstanding that sort of have these other just simplistic solutions rise to the top, which result in the R word, and people just misrepresenting other people, and yeah, relying on lazy tropes of people, and yeah, it's very unfortunate, and that's why this story hits home for me. Not personally, but it hits home for me as a really powerful story, and yeah, I quite like it. Um, you
Yeah,
guys,
I mean you see it a lot
yeah,
all over the world. Um, yeah, just you are from a different place. I mean that you don't even have to look different, but just being from a different place
mm,
exacts the same kind of hostility and just hatred. It's ridiculous.
you want to say it, you just it's like you walk away from it thinking it's so unnecessary, but yet it
Yeah,
still permeates in society, and it manifests, and it shows its ugly head like in really powerful situations that just results in really a lot of unnecessary crapness. That's a word. Fight me. Um,
yeah, it's the human condition.
yeah. Was it okay? Was it? Let's talk about something uplifting from the story then.
To be honest, it's not that long of a story.
Yeah.
Um, I don't. I mean,
Yeah, we've
I
cut.
don't really have much else to add.
Mm, yeah, I'm kind. Well, I mean, the dad, and I know I've already brought him up, but I think I that's the taste that I get after the story is like the idiosyncrasies of the dad, where um it's interesting because he saves his son at the end, and he goes on to save other terror people throughout the city, and so he's not a bad person like through his actions, like he doesn't harm any beetles physically, but he says a lot of things, very untoward and whatnot, and so it's I think yeah, it's given me some pause to think about people like him. It's like, well, okay, yes, all right, so. unless we've got anything else to say, should we go to the score then?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can.
This is a short one, but a good one. All right, let's go to the scores, and
Why don't you go first this time?
me first.
Yeah.
I really like this story. There was nothing wrong with this story, and it
Oh,
had.
it's going to be a high score.
It is by definition necessarily going to be a high score. I'm giving it, out of a possible 500, I'm giving it 447.
Oh,
Yes,
record numbers.
eat that, scorekeeper. Um, okay, let me update my. Where am I? My score, 447. Okay, which Dean, feel free to tell us your score.
Uh, it was not bad.
Hmm.
Um,
I'll get the author to put that on his next book. It was not bad.
You recommended it, so I mean,
I know.
there's
Um, I'm gonna go with a 368.
Shocking.
three,
Shocking.
6, 8. All right, 368 is the score of Dean. There we go. All right, and
Which way is Sarah gonna go?
500. It's a great story.
No, it wasn't that good. Didn't have enough female characters in it. There was one wimpy, washy mother figure, and one female beetle that actually gave a shit. And otherwise that's it.
There's two.
Yeah, there's two.
And his mom.
Well,
That's one of the two.
yeah.
Oh.
Well, were any of the Beatles girls in the play when they were
It's
playing?
not specified.
Yeah. Well, then how many do we know that the driver was the driver a man?
Yeah, the driver is male. Tony is male. The father is male.
There's 3.
Yeah, but they also speak more. They have more lines.
Okay, I see. No, okay, that makes a difference. Yep. Okay.
Anyway, I still very much liked it. It's very well told, despite it being so short. I'm going to go somewhat similar to one of you. I'm going to say 417.
417.
Shoot from the hip.
Shoot for the hip. That's the best way to go. All right. Sarah's score is up. Now we get to my favorite part of the night,
Aggregate.
the aggregate score. You know, I used to have it as total aggregate, and then I thought about it, and I was like, that's not a thing. That's just the total aggregate. No, it's just an aggregate, just aggregate score. Okay, I fixed it. Okay, so let me make sure I'm ready. Oh, there it is. Okay, so thank you guys for the good conversation. This week we read Tony and the Beatles by Philip K. Dick as recommended, or was it a recommendation, or was it just your pick? As
Just
picked by Dean. The aggregate score is, trumpets please,
Dun, 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 dun.
411.
That's quite high.
We need fireworks. Well, 2 out of 3 of us were in the 400.